A wonderful way to start your day. More interviews, more fun. This is Sandy Kastel.
Hi, and welcome to the Sandy Kastel Show. I'm here with Joyce Rosen, and she has the Trauma Recovery Yoga. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, and especially since it is 1 month since we had that event here in Las Vegas, and then of course yesterday we just had that event out in Manhattan. So we've had a lot of different things that have been stress-oriented, especially even national disasters, and then we've had fires and people losing their homes, people, the flooding. We've got flooding, fires, and other issues. Yeah. So how did you get into, what drove you to do this for trauma-related people, taking yoga and helping them with this?
Well, I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2012 after the death of my son. He was 22 years old and was run over by a train, and he lost his leg. So he was in the Navy in Virginia, and I went and sat at his bedside, and he passed over 9 days' time. So I was, as you can imagine, there was a lot of trauma in that moment. So I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2012, and I was already a yoga teacher, and I already understood the healing of yoga because I had used it for my own anxiety. That's why I started teaching yoga. And then I isolated for a while, like many people are doing now. Post-trauma, we isolate, or we, I call it cocooning, or we just kind of want to be with ours in our space and not go out. And then once I wanted to be out and go to yoga, I found that I was kind of becoming yoga averse because I would step onto the mat in spaces with a traditional, or what I may consider an Americanized version of yoga, or westernized, where testing your edge and pushing you and getting you to stand on your hands and feeling just kind of pushing. And I didn't want to be pushed. I didn't want to be called out. I didn't want to draw attention to myself. I wanted to be in this space and feel safe amongst other people. And so the method was created from me saying, I can't do that. I'll just stay home and find the tools that work. So everything from essential oils to, I did research and took more workshops on self-regulation, the psychology of trauma, how it's held in the body, yoga and its effects, breath, self-regulation, essential oils, meditation, Buddhist monks, boom, boom, boom. I just filled up this toolbox. Right. And I created this method that helped me. And then I started sharing it with a few people at the VA where I was getting treated, because as a Gold Star mom, you get treated by the VA. And then they asked me to teach it there. And then a traumatic brain injury rehab asked me to teach it there. So anyway, long story short, more people wanted it and more people needed it than there was enough of me to go around. So now we scaled up. Now we train other people to teach this method. It's a specific sequence, including everything from self-regulation to affirmation and essential oils. And we bring that into spaces.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned PTSD. And so it's post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, now a lot of times we've related that to people that are coming back from the war. Okay, that's been the big association with that. It's not, as far as I understand, has not been generally related to regular kinds of situations, such as losing a family member, or being in a situation like we're dealing with now. Because I lost 4 members of my family within 9 months. And something that you mentioned about, how you just kind of push yourself in that cocoon. I mean, I really felt that. I mean, I literally, even when my mother was the first one to go, and I really just, it was like, I wanted to stay in bed and put the covers over my head. And I literally asked, I said, what do I do now? Because who do I call to tell all my exciting news to? Who do I call to say, Mom, I need your help? Right. And that was the first one that I lost. And then 6 months later, it was my nephew, then my niece, and then my sister. So it was one right after the other within 9 months. And the thing that I realized is that when you're talking with people, not everybody can understand exactly what you're going through. Right. Unless, they can what's the difference between empathize and sympathy?
Right.
Sympathy.
Right.
You
You
know,
never really know a thing until it happens to
until you have it.
Really
Yeah,
know it.
you can have sympathy for somebody who's
Right.
going through something, but if you haven't experienced a loss in your
Mm-hmm.
life, you don't really know until you actually experience it. And I had been pretty fortunate in my life to not have any close. I had a grandparent or something like that, and that was something. But then when it was close, and it was my immediate family, and so many all at once,
Right.
it was devastating. And I really didn't know how to handle it. And my husband at the time did not know how to handle it.
Right.
He's now my ex-husband. And I think that even that situation was part of what was the gap that became between us,
Right,
because he
absolutely.
didn't really know how to handle me having that loss
Right.
and us having it in
He
our
didn't know
family.
how to be there for you.
He didn't know how to be
Which
there
is-
for me.
Which is totally understandable and very common. And when you have that much loss in that amount of time, your resilience is just gone,
Mm-hmm.
because resilience is built up over time without any punches, I
Mm-hmm.
suppose. When you have enough time between the last incident and the first, we didn't have any time.
Yeah,
We were
right. Like
boom,
I had
boom, boom,
6
boom, boom.
months, and we were just
Starting to
getting
breathe a
things
little bit.
wrapped up and just starting
Right.
to, and then it was like, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I went, what? And then so like you said, we got hit so fast then. You're right, there was no time to even breathe in between, and I really had that feeling that I couldn't even leave town because I was afraid somebody was going to die. You know, I mean, seriously.
No, I understand
and
that.
so I stayed, and my husband went back, to our other home that we had back in Indiana, because he didn't know, I don't think, how to deal with it. And I'm a positive person. I mean, I've always been one of those that, okay, something happens, like you said, you have a certain period of time to deal with things, and you deal with it, and then you have a recover, and then you have a building period, and you go forward. But when it was back to back like that, and now a lot of people that were hit with the incidents, and I'll start with the traumatic situations of going through a hurricane or a fire or a flood, natural disaster, where you lose your home and your whole family and your whole neighborhood and your whole community, or the fires where whole communities were actually lost, devastated. They're gone.
Yeah.
So the PTSD is actually something that a lot of us have experienced in different areas of the world and our lives, even though it's not just related to people that go to war and come back,
Right.
and have dealt with those kinds of things.
Right. PTSD is a complicated diagnosis, and it has a lot of framework that, a lot of boxes that need to be checked before you're actually
Okay.
diagnosed with it.
With it.
But there are a lot of the same symptoms in other diagnoses, like traumatic grief, which is probably what you were experiencing. And other stress and crisis situations can still bring about a lot of those same symptoms. And what the commonality is, and what our method does help people with, is that so much of that stress, and what science is now starting to confirm through research, is that it's held here. And so our objective is to get people, stop being here. You can say positive affirmations all day long and say, I know better than this. Why am I laying in the bed? Right? Why am I taking Xanax when I really know that that's not what I should? But because our body is giving us all these signals, holding all this tension and all this emotion. Because what happens when you have, like your situation or mine, or the people that were at Route 91, or the people in New York yesterday, something happens in your life that you do not have the tools to cope with at that moment. You don't have resource. We call it resources. Those are self-regulation techniques, and so it's beyond our control, and we had no way to deal.
And you mentioned something that we hold it in our body, and I know through the years I've studied different modalities, Feldenkrais, and then massage therapy, deep tissue, Reiki,
Right, so
energy work. So I'm familiar with a lot of different modalities, and a lot of it is the way it helps us is that it releases the stuff from our body and helps us. But when you have such an impact, I'm sure it's even more challenging.
Right, and the science behind that, because we talk a great deal. Our method, we try to, I call it de-woo-wooing, or like try not to be woo-woo. In try, we really bring about the science of how we stimulate the vagus nerve and balance back the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, and try to get those hormones back in check, because it's as if I had adrenal fatigue because I flipped into fight or flight and I was stuck there.
Right.
So my heart's palpitating, I'm having flashbacks, I'm having panic attacks and all these things. And I, even in the calmest of moments, felt like running, you know? And so...
But there's nowhere to run.
There's nowhere to run. Thank you. And your legs can't run far enough to get rid of that, right? No. Because you have to recognize where it is, be mindful, breathe through it, and these postures that we move through, and these techniques that we use help to regulate those hormones to get that balance back in the parasympathetic and sympathetic, because it's like the flapper got stuck open and we're just rushed with that fight or flight and we're stuck.
Right. For our listeners that are listening and watching, what's the difference between the parasympathetic? I always
the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Well, I don't want to mess this up because my husband,
I know there's a difference. Yeah.
My husband mostly speaks on all the science, and he attends all the symposiums and conferences.
Okay.
But the sympathetic, which you would think is the one that would keep you the most calm, is actually the one that jumps up and tries to defend and kind of puts your thinking mind on hold, and your digestion and all of those regular systems on hold for a minute so you can handle a situation.
And that takes all your energy from your body to help you react to a situation.
To save yourself or someone else. And then the parasympathetic is the one that calms us, that we use on a regular basis in calm situations, so we can think and breathe. Yes, and all those things. Right? So one of the first things to go, and you might have noticed, and through your grief, was your breath. Because we start to just breathe right here. Right? Very short.
Right.
And we start to look about and be hyper diligent, and what's the next bad thing, and the world isn't safe. And suddenly, even though we know logically those things aren't true, our body's telling us, look out for the bad thing.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it takes mindfulness and meditation and breath. And it works really great, too, if you have a complementary, our method and like talk therapy. They really complement each other.
Of course.
Because
it's all connected.
It's releasing.
Yeah.
Right? So talking it out, moving it out, breathing it out.
Yes, and talking is interesting. Like I said, for me, I'll just go for that one experience, because of course at first, you have your friends and you can talk with them, and then when you lose the one, and then you lose the next one, and then after a while it's like, what do I say? I mean, what do I talk about? Okay, yes, I'm going through this, but what can they say?
Right.
They don't know what to say.
Right.
Because they've already seen you lose one person. Now they've seen you lose another. Now just like whatever. They've seen you go through a situation. What can they really say after a certain point? And then...
How many casseroles can they bring?
Right. And casseroles. But what was really good therapy for me, I think what helped me a lot get through my process, only part of the process, because it definitely has been in stages, and even still this year I came to another realization of something, from 5 years ago. This was 2012 that this. So but that first period of time in 2012 was when I actually started my nonprofit, my 501c3, which is WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, before my mom passed away. It had been officially started about 6 months before she passed away, and then in January we started with events. And so I started doing events with that. I focused my energy in that. But also I started my radio show on KLAV, and I had all the, these people that were, artists, and so I was promoting that. And it helped me to fill my time, focus on somebody else. So it did all that, but still there's other levels that need to be addressed. So.
Yeah, and the talking, well, even you being in those spaces, and, it's nice to distract ourselves. One of the other
kind of a distraction.
It is.
But it was healthy in one respect, because I was doing something that was very productive and promotional of other people, and it was very good.
Actually,
for my
that's
energy.
Great. One of the pieces of our method when we train teachers is we rise by lifting others.
Yeah.
So we really do that, helping
We just
other
gotta
people.
chill.
Yeah. Right. And I can't, I think it's Carl Ryland's quote, so I can't steal that, but that is part of the method, is that, you know, part of the process is to go out and volunteer. And the more sorry you feel for yourself, the more you should do for other people. And it sounds so contrary, but, you know, in our society, and I don't know if it's this way in other countries, but we keep saying you can't love anyone else till you love yourself.
That's right.
But I flipped the script on that. That is true, but how can you love yourself until you've loved someone else? So in other words, I say you can't really love yourself until you treat other people with love. So you go out there and you're giving away love, right? You're helping other people, you're lifting them up, and they look at you like, oh, and then you think, oh, I did something good. I love me. Wow, I'm awesome, right? So it really does work the other way. We stay home and say, well, you know, I've got to take a bath and read a book and just love myself. No, you really want to love yourself, go help other people. Oh,
right.
Right, that's what you're
Yes,
saying.
that's very good.
Yeah, we agree. We agree on that, for sure. It's part of the process.
You know, I know we've got a lot to talk about, but we have some sponsors, and we love our sponsors, too. So we're going to take a brief pause, and then we're going to be back with Joyce Bosen, and we're going to talk more about the... what is it?
Trauma Recovery Yoga.
TRY. T-R-Y. We'll see you in a minute. Hi, I'm Sandy Kastel. Join me weekly for tips on how to stay fit and fabulous forever on The Sandy Kastel Show. I'll see you there.
Retrospects is a purveyor, if you will, of historical eyewear. Retrospects is located on the second floor, right across from the chandelier bar. So when you look at our store from the outside, it looks like there isn't much going on in here. And then you open the drawers. We actually carry authentic pieces from the late 1890s to the 1990s. We have almost 3,000 pieces in here. It's like a treasure trove reveal. We do have a collection of new glasses that we have reproduced ourselves. It's called the Cuthbert and Chen collection. The safe is our jewel. It's our baby. We love it. It's from 1903. It weighs as much as a car. It's solid steel. We use the safe to hold our most precious pieces, our museum collection, if you will. People come in to find glasses that are not something they're going to find everywhere else. Not something all their friends are wearing, and something that they can tell that story. We sell stories as much as we sell glasses. We have pieces that we can associate with very famous people from history, movies, special events that happened in the past. And some of the favorites are the Ray-Ban shooter that Johnny Depp wore in Fear and Loathing of Las Vegas, the beautiful frame France Parisian plastic aviator worn by Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. Retrospects is not just about glasses, it's about the experience, it's about how these glasses make you feel. We are a full-service optical shop, somewhere where guests can come to get repairs, restoration, can put their prescription in, can get them a quick pair of sunglasses for the pool, and can give them a really great, just fun experience.
Welcome back to the Sandy Kastel Show. I'm here with Joyce Bosen, and we are talking about the
Trauma Recovery Yoga.
Trauma Recovery Yoga. I love that. And the initials are TRY. That's great. Do you have a website?
We do, traumarecoveryyoga.org.
Okay. And, of course, you have all the social media, I'm sure,
we do,
where people can get in touch with you.
We're really easy to find.
A specific location that you're doing this?
Well, no, but since October 1st event, we have trained over 100 teachers now, and we've been so blessed that they're very passionate and they really do want to help other people. So we've placed teachers in all the EOS gyms, in all the True Fusion yoga studios, and a couple other small studios you can find on our website. You don't need a membership, and they're free, and you can go to Trauma Recovery Yoga almost any day of the week in this town.
Wow.
we did it all through October, and the gyms and the studios have now allowed us to extend through November.
So do you feel that people are coming in to do these?
They're more. The numbers are going up now.
Are they?
We only had like 1 or 2 people in each class, but those 1 or 2 people were very important.
Right.
Because you don't know if that's the last resort for them. So we show up and we wait. And if one person is there, we teach. Right. But the numbers are starting to go up now as people start to come out of isolation.
I was going to say, because it's only been 4 weeks. Yeah. And like you said, nobody probably wants, a lot of people at first. All right, you said the stages before. The stages of recovering or mourning or going through something
grief,
like this, of grief. What are they?
Well, I don't have a specific list, but I mean the first stage, I mean, because they vary. And I know people like to say, well, there's, disbelief and then they want to move through things like anger and then acceptance but there's, as you know, grief goes like this, and it's sneaky, and it goes, oh, you accept it, no, you don't. Today you want to punch a wall, tomorrow you're like fine with it. So it just moves around, and it is your body trying to process those pieces out, and your mind trying to make sense of it all at one time. So, but generally it is very common. The first thing we do is try to isolate, and we should give ourselves permission to do whatever that is, right? You know this as a healer, right? That if you feel like today I'm just gonna put the covers over it, do that without guilt. Turn judgment into curiosity. Why do I want to lay down? Why do I want to stay in the house? If you become curious, you'll find the answers. The answers lie in the questions.
And writing.
And writing. Oh, writing is great. Writing. Write it out.
Yeah.
Express it somehow. Yeah, that's a great tip.
Or on a computer. Okay, it's a little different. but there is something about that connection between here and writing something. Like I've done the stream of consciousness stuff. I've done the morning pages. I've done my dream journals. I've done
gratitude journals.
Yeah. And there's that connection that just comes out, and when you're just writing. But then it transferred. Then I started doing it on the computer, and then it's like doing my dreams on the computer. So there is a different process, but writing, putting your thoughts on paper,
artistic
allowing that to come out, painting. Doing something. And so going to the yoga classes is a way. Now, one of the things you mentioned that we here in the United States, that a lot of the yoga classes have become, there's a little bit of that competitive kind of nature, because we do tend to have that. I've been very lucky. I've been to a variety of different yoga classes, and I have been.
Good.
But and in different times of my life, it seems like I go into it for a while, and then I go on to something. I do dance also, so when you're doing yoga, your approach is a little bit different. Then it's not as much about let's see how quickly you can stand on your head and do it this way. What is the difference?
Well, I think that all yoga is good yoga, and I think that if people love Bikram, go to Bikram, and if they love yin, go to yin, and so I'm happy that people are going to yoga for whatever reason they're finding those spaces. Ours is different in the way that we I eliminated what I felt kept me triggered me more and made me feel too vulnerable to stay mindful. So there's that balance, right? Because it's about mindful movement as a dancer too, right? As a dancer too, man, on point. That mindfulness, and when you're done, you're high, right? Because you've just been completely without any other thought for that hour,
right?
And that is our intention in this method. So we just keep people mindfully moving with their breath in this mindful meditation of movement and breath. And it's as if it's almost like dance. I do often say, the breath is the music and the movement is the dance, if you allow that, right? But more, we also, the most important cue that I give people as we begin, I say the one thing I want you to remember more than anything is use your choices. Everything is a choice. Everything I say is an invitation and ask. If you do nothing more than you showed up here and you sat on your mat and you breathed today, you did yoga.
That's right.
Anything else is a bonus. Be proud of yourself that you made it to this room. Making it to the room is hard enough. even for people that go all the time, like, you know, you can find yourself 100 other ways not to go. So, so choices, and I also I coined a term called micro cueing, because I speak the entire time, which is quite different than a lot of yoga too, where they leave you to breathe and they leave you in silence. And the reason is, especially post-trauma in crisis, if this is left to wander, it finds a dark alley. It finds, you know, the boogeyman. So I keep reminding them, I'm not just talking like, watch where your foot is, and I don't really care about alignment. Honestly, your body, you tune in and be curious about that. I watch you and make sure that you're not injured, but I micro cue you to remind you of your breath, of your body, of your affirmation, of the meditation.
It's like bringing you back. Keep bringing you there to that space.
I am here. I am here. I am here. Yeah.
I know. I love yoga.
I know.
I'm getting calm just sitting here. So, all right. So, if somebody wants to go to this, they just go to your website, and then they can go in. Now, are these people from just that situation that happened?
Our city, you know, I say trauma-sensitive yoga is people-sensitive yoga. So these are people that may have lost their job or had a miscarriage, or, you know, trauma comes in all shapes and sizes. It doesn't have to be PTSD to have your body react in some of those ways, right? So we have people that are recently divorced, or, you know, all kinds of things that come. So
that's stressful.
It is.
I can tell you that.
Yes, I can tell you that a couple times. But yes, so there's all walks of life in there, and we are seeing the numbers go up on them, you know, for the people that have most recently experienced. And now, this week, because of wonderful John here at your studio, we have a link that we're going to post on our website later this week, that people can now find our yoga and do it right in their own home. So if they're not ready to leave yet, it's a nice introductory sequence. So so that if no one's looking at you, you still won't hurt yourself. It's a very do no harm kind of way, but I guide with the breath and the mindfulness through that. So that'll be on there, and anybody can get that link for themselves. And
I guess we'll have it on our website too, right?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Awesome.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So, all right. So, what is your background?
Well, I'm born here in Las Vegas in 1964.
And
and
I beat you by 10 years.
You're right.
I was born in 54, so there you go.
Really?
Yeah,
girl. The dance and the yoga shows.
Oh yeah.
And then
and good genes. You know, my mom and my dad have something to do with it.
Right. Yeah.
But I do try to take care of myself. I'm not fanatical about things and about exercise. And another thing that I went through during that period of time, I ate comfort foods. Hello.
Well, yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I said,
and you forgave yourself for it.
You know what? I said, it's okay. I went up in a size in a dress, and I said, and then I went up another size, and I said, that's okay. That's it. I have my limits.
Yeah.
But that's when, in fact, and as John is aware, John has been with me. He was over with me at KLAV. And the thing that I did when I started the radio show is I always had a videographer there. And then John joined me there, and then just went on to start his fabulous career here at WWDB.TV. And now it's he's so very successful. But the other thing is that I talk about being fit and fabulous forever. And the idea is that it's not just about being skinny. A lot of people think, oh, it's just about being skinny. No. This is about being
vitality,
fit and fabulous wherever we are in our process and in our lives, because things change. We go through things, and at that point in time, I needed, or I felt, that was one of the things that I allowed that I did. I really felt that was something, and I did. I gained weight, and I got little exercise clothes and stuff. And I said, but you know what? I dressed for my size. You know, because it makes me feel good. Okay, and it is about feeling good about ourselves, right? And doing those things that make us feel good and help us process the stuff that we've gone through, because we're still here.
Right.
Okay.
That's a great message.
So let's take it from we're still here and how do we not just sit down in the middle of the road and say, I just can't do this anymore. I'm just going to give up?
Well, I think I love that topic because you just hit the nail on the head. I'm trying not to well up because I do. But when you get a lot of sorry for your loss, sorry for your loss, sorry for your loss. Here's a casserole, and God bless them. People are doing what they've been taught, right? Mm-hmm. But a very wise man said to me, and this will be the title of my book, by the way, "May your loss be a blessing." Mm. And I was like, and he said that to me like the day before my son's funeral.
Chills.
Oh yeah,
chills.
There's a lot of that in our lives, right?
Yeah.
Especially because I still feel like those people are watching with us and helping us. But so
they'll be with us forever.
They are. Oh, always. Yeah. I promise you.
Yeah.
So I thought that's it. If I have to be here, this has to have been for a reason. For me, that was important. And not that I needed to start an institute in my son's name or any of those things, but that I would learn something from it. I would be bigger and I would help others be bigger.
Right.
And even if that just meant I knew a new phrase, "May your loss be a blessing." Right. I knew how to greet people and hold them and hold space for them and just sit and be quiet and stare at the ceiling fan for an hour if that's what I needed to do for someone who had suffered loss. Right. Because I had all these new tools, right? And so those things, if you can, it is a choice. And it is a choice sometimes every day. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm 5 years like you, and I still have moments of, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see him. Mm-hmm. When is it my turn? I still have those moments. But they are few, and they get fewer and farther between, and the moments in between become bigger and more beautiful. And I start saying things like, "Wow, I have a great life," and it can happen. If we can stand, anyone can stand, right? That's the message. So just look for those people. I mean, there are plenty of people that you'll find that are suffering in ways you don't want to follow their path. Right? I knew mothers, and you've known people that have lost people, or people that have been in traumatic situations. It's all they talk about. They obsess about it, or they take down all the pictures and they won't they won't see people's names and those things. So find those tools, man. Go on it's a scavenger hunt. Like, what works? Oh, I tried essential oils. Oh, I meditated with Tibetan monks. Just like somebody would, and then you just find your blend. And then you have tools to offer other people. Now you're a gift. Right. So you're still here because you're a gift. Yes. The things you're saying to me resonate, and they're important because you know that you can help other people with those. Right. And you can understand more, and you're right. And
empathy
is real.
Tools. Empathy is real. Yes. Yeah. And then you can do what you've done. Now, are you the only person that started this, or did you have a group of people with you?
I started it, and then when my husband came on board, I'm a newlywed.
Congratulations.
Thanks. He came on board.
All that hard work paid off.
Yeah. Yes. And he's wonderful. And he was the director of operations for Three Square, and he was already working in the nonprofit world. And then we met, and so I was only about a year and a half out of I was still in the middle of Poopville, And we hit it off, but I was saying, well, I'm doing these things. I'm also a real estate agent, and I was doing these things on the side, and I was helping these people, and he goes, well, you should just be doing that, like, that's wonderful. And then I was saying, yeah, I did a TBI, traumatic brain injury class today, and one of the guys spoke for the first time, and he hadn't spoke before, and he said, I'm a chicken, and my husband was like, that. So he's very science, very logical, like, has a business degree, and he's like that. So he started doing research. You know why this works? Do you know why neck rolls work, Joyce? Because you're stimulating their vagus nerve. Do you know why your diaphragmatic breath works? Because you're balancing those. And
he got curious.
He got really excited. And then so then he helped to create the training now. So now we also have a training, and it's a 20-hour training. We have one this weekend right down the street.
Really? Yeah. Where's it at?
It's
and
at
what
True
time?
Yoga.
Okay.
And it's full.
Okay.
I fill them up. Every other month we teach about 40 people the method, and the training is open to all people, whether they've experienced trauma care for someone else who has experienced trauma or someone who lives in crisis. So that could be a mom, it could be you or me, it could be a teacher, a yoga teacher. Because the method holds yoga, yes, but in the 20-hour training, 3 hours are on the mat. The rest of it is breath, essential oils, affirmations, why, the science of what it is, why it works, why we do it, and why we don't do other things, and a lot of Q&A. Because there's a lot of curiosity on the topic. It's kind of cutting edge. You know?
Yeah. John, let's do it. You want to do the class?
Come on. You'd fit right in.
That would be great for anybody to take, actually, you know, to be able to help out, you know, because life is long, you know, in no matter what the distance is, really, what the length of time is. But we go through so many different phases that at some point in our life, even if we don't experience something personally that's a traumatic thing, but chances are we're going to have at least one or something that's going to happen. But then there's a bigger chance that we're going to have somebody in our lives that's going to experience something. And especially a lot of the, not only just the yuppies or people, you know, that are older, that are starting to, you know, hit other things that are happening in their life, where they're having major medical things that are happening that are changing their lives dramatically. But also, you know, even millennials that are hit by things like something like this, or hit by something that's a storm or something, you know.
Right. All those things, you know, like you said, we don't know if we're going to need to help ourselves or someone else. And our method, actually, so our latest campaign is Help the Helpers. Right?
Very good.
Right? So what happened was, after October 1st, we were approached by first responders, ambulance companies, healthcare professionals. So all these people that said, what is going on with me? This is my job, and yet my body, I feel out of control, right? I feel quite different.
They were so affected by it.
They were very affected by it. And I said, okay, it's your job, but you didn't expect to be in a war zone. That's quite different, right? So you didn't expect to be on a battlefield. So you're experiencing a lot of these traumatic symptoms.
Right.
So they do a different form of isolation, and some people do this as families too, but they isolate in a pack. So with their brotherhood at the fire department or at the police station, or they want to be within the people that they shared that common trauma with, and understands them, right? Yes. Because we're searching right away, we look for someone who understands.
That's right.
And nobody really understands, right? So I said, okay, I'm working now to put something together that I can take to their spaces for their people, not while they're on duty, but when they're off duty, but maybe we put it in a warehouse or something like that nearby or whatever. So a space and funds to put our teachers in those spaces, called Help the Helpers.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
How are you getting the funds?
So we're a nonprofit, and we are working on an Indiegogo campaign soon that will be up on, for crowdfunding.
Right.
And then we're also seeking grant writers, because we don't grant write, but we are at least looking for a good source to find the grants. Because,
I might have somebody for you.
Oh, good, because it's like a needle in a haystack out there, and it's difficult. Because I'm pretty quick learned, so I'll apply. I just can't find the one. So
it's not so much just knowing. It's there's a lot of paperwork involved in it, and obviously it helps if you have somebody that's already been doing it, so that they can just go right to the sources right away for you. Yeah. So that's we're operating through donations and grants, and that's what we're working on. And we scholarship people through the grant, also the money that we'll use to help the helpers, but we are also always looking for donations, because we scholarship people to take our training. So there are people that were at Route 91 that can't, because our training is $386, which is a lot of money. And it's like a Friday evening and a Saturday and a Sunday all day. And especially yoga teachers, marriage counselors, a lot of people that are practitioners and helpers may not have that kind of money. So we usually have at least 5 people that we scholarship. So that's great. Well, hold on. Now we've got a lot more to talk about, but we're going to take a quick pause for our sponsors here. And John, I think you have some links to whatever she's going to be showing, right? Yes. So to that workshop and everything. Okay, and we'll be right back after a message from our sponsors.
Joyce from Trauma Recovery Yoga, founder of Trauma Recovery Yoga, and I'm making this video today because today's October 26th, and so we're just a few weeks after a major traumatic incident in our community that has had some people become isolated in their homes. And although our organization has reached out to the community and brought our classes, Trauma Recovery Yoga, into public spaces, some people need this information in the comfort of their own home, which is completely understandable because sometimes the world seems like a scary place out there.
Your heart, your laughter, and your joy. Take another inhale, let your fingers reach to the 12 o'clock hour, and as you exhale, tick 2 numbers to the right on your clock. As you inhale, your left hand reaches up and over, and as you exhale, your right hand tries to pull
just a little wider than shoulder distance apart. Another way to do this is have your seat resting on your heels. Either is correct. So you can either be in this tabletop position or with your seat on your heels looking between your hands. So maybe your right knee's over your right ankle. Maybe it's not. Just be curious about that. For our practice today. If you would like more information about TRI, just check out our website. I hope you're feeling better. Thank you.
Hi, and welcome back to the Sandy Kastel Show. I'm here with Joyce, Bosen, and of course we have the Trauma Recovery Yoga. I'll get it by the end of the show. Yeah. But it's good for you to hear you say it too.
I like
and then
saying it.
I like, spreading it out. And it's TRY. And why? Because
we like you. I remember the Mickey Mouse
perfect. Well, we were just talking on the break a little bit, about the emotional connection that we have, right, to all this, and that a lot of people that come to the training may be from different walks of life, like the parents of somebody that came back that has PTSD, or maybe a spouse. Mm-hmm. Somebody or somebody that's experienced something, and then in the process of going through this workshop, they actually discovered things about themselves and that they took from this that they didn't even realize that they had maybe some of these symptoms that they could even help themselves, right?
Yeah, one of the things we cover that is just now coming into the psychology world is ACE study, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. And they list a number of experiences that most of us have experienced at least one of. And then there's a score. You kind of just check the boxes of what have you had in your childhood. Mm-hmm. And then they correlate those with, if you have a score of this, you may have diabetes, obesity, you may have suffered from addiction, you may take up nicotine, and that these people are like, oh, that's why I do this, that's why I do that. And so they're understanding themselves better without like diagnosing themselves and then saying, oh, I'm so broken, because we always follow everything, always. This was not a hyperbole. We always follow everything. But the good news is you can, this breath, this yoga, this meditation, the legs up the wall, insomnia, this, whatever, there's something for everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, anybody, I know we've had a lot of suicides. Okay, we've heard about a lot more suicides in kids and stuff, which is really tragic. And people, and the thing of it is you can never. If you do that, you can't go back. Right. I'm sorry.
Solution.
That's a permanent thing. You're done. And so many times people will feel that lost feeling about, like I felt, what do I do now? Where do I go? Who do I turn to? How can I handle this? My life is over as I know it. It's never going to be the same. I'm never going to be able to. My Christmases will never be the same because those people are not there. You lose a loved one. My house is gone. I have to start over. So we have all these questions, and the thing of it is one step at a time, one breath at a time, and exploring and discovering, because if we can just, and like you said, volunteering, because when we volunteer, it takes it away from us, and we see somebody else going through something, and we're like, oh, I can help them a little. I can help them.
Yeah. So no matter
little
how
bit.
bad you think
Right.
you have it, you can always help someone else. And
Yes.
that's actually psychology, an interpersonal neurobiology. I'm still learning from my husband, but interpersonal neurobiology means that our opinion of ourselves is built by a lot by our relationships of other people, which makes sense, right? And so when we go out and engage socially, instead of, because everyone wants to be so introspective, right? And what about me and what's going on with me and all those things, but we find out more about ourselves when we are out in with other people. So your point is on the nose.
And the other thing is, the other thing, when you were talking about, we have to love ourselves. The first thing I thought of is we have to go to the well to drink
Yes.
before we can help somebody else.
True.
So in other words, we do have to. It is important to nourish ourselves, and so that we are able to go out and be of assistance to other people. It's just like sleeping. If you do not get the sleep that you need the next day, you're just not 100%. You don't
Not
have
on your
all,
game.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then the more we can nourish ourselves and the more we can heal ourselves and discover maybe some of the elements of the PTSD that maybe are influential or have been affected us in our lives. And so now going back to your childhood, this is very interesting because I know they've had a big thing all over Facebook about, were you, and you're supposed to remember, were you ever,
Yeah.
if you ever had anything happen like this that's been, publicized out there. And it's interesting because a lot of, it said, just say me too, right? So everybody said me too. Well, I had experiences
Of course.
as a child, different experiences, maybe not as bad as they could have been.
Right.
Maybe somebody else's experience was a lot worse. But I had some incidents that have happened throughout my childhood, then in the business world. And so we have things, but a lot of times we don't. We just kind of, we shut it off. We don't think about it. We just take it with a grain of salt. Or somebody doesn't take it with a grain of salt, and then they hold that within them forever, and it holds them back.
Or it becomes a tumor or high blood
Or
pressure
becomes something-
or diabetes or obesity.
Yes, because you mentioned the fact that if you have some of these things, then maybe you could have this, this, or that, which are physical diseases, because
Yes.
disease is just a dis-ease in the body, which means that something is blocked, something has not been dealt with, or something has not been worked. So going through something like your program and your classes and doing some of this process can help to release some of that, which will also help us to be healthier,
Right.
not only physically but mentally
Right. And I say that when people.
and emotionally.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
Mind, body,
There's-
spirit.
Mind,
Yeah.
mind, body, spirit. It's always mind, body, spirit.
Right.
Some of these things don't change. We just look at them in different ways,
Yeah.
and package them differently.
Absolutely. And I tell people when they come and sit on the mat that if they came to get a yogi body, that they'll get that. And if they came to quiet their mind, they'll get that. And if they came to quiet their mind, they'll get a yogi body. And if they came to get a yogi body, they'll quiet their mind. You cannot, it's one comes, it's a package. And
Right.
that's how it works out.
And the other thing with yoga is it's where we are ourselves.
Thank you.
It's not, oh, look what they're doing. Look what she's doing. Look what he's doing. Oh, why can't I? No. We each, Presswood, one of the songwriters that I worked with in, I can't remember his first name now, but he said this one thing. There's a river, right? And we're all at different places in the river. We throw our reel in, our line in at a different place. Well, now over there, upriver, somebody else has their line in, and here, somebody else that does, and here I have mine, and somebody else is down the river further. Well, we each have our own pool to draw from. And it's important that we realize that our pool is different than everybody else's
And
pool.
accept that.
And we are unique. And our processes are different, and we may not react the exact same way as somebody else.
Right.
But however we can find ways of healing ourselves and pulling up the bootstraps and then saying, okay, now I'm ready.
Well, yeah.
I'm going to conquer the world.
So what, now what? Right?
Yeah.
So what, now what becomes kind of a mantra too. You have to, remember those things. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's actually, I said the other day, while we're lining up, sitting on mats, and I said, let this be maybe the only hour of your day that you don't feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses. It doesn't matter what the person on the mat next to you is doing. All that matters is what you're doing on your mat for you. Mm-hmm. The rest of the world doesn't even matter.
Well,
same.
We have to wrap up.
I know.
We'll have to come back. I want to come back. I'd love to do one of your trainings. Maybe I can come in January or something when you do your next one. And the next one is this weekend, but it's already booked up.
Yeah.
So everybody out there, check out the website, which is
traumarecoveryyoga.org.
Okay, check it out. Check them out on social media. Check out their workshops. Go into all these locations around town. They're available for you to come in for free, and they're sponsoring this and making this available to everybody. So please take advantage of it, because we all have a little space in our lives that can always benefit from a little peacefulness and a little yoga. So thank you so much again for coming, Joyce. I appreciate it.
Namaste.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening and tuning in today, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.